Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and you saw that this week there was some controversy because my homegirl partner in crime, Miss Yvette Carnell, had some pretty strong words about Minister Farrakhan, in particular, a speech that he gave recently. In which he was calling for action. He said he was looking for 10,000 good men to take action against the police brutality and violence in the black community. Yvette felt that the minister's words were misguided, and you can watch this interview. And I'd love for you to hear her words for what she said, and also read what the minister said, so you can compare the two. And in order to really get some balance on this conversation, a friend of mine reached out to me and said, there's someone from the nation that you should speak with in order to hear just another side, to become better informed on some things that are happening in the nation. And the brother he recommended is actually a young man, but very intelligent young man by the name of Mr. Salih Muhammad. Salih is the president, excuse me, I'm sorry, the chair of the African Black Coalition. He's tuning in from out west. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing pretty good for sure.
Good, good. Now, are you in Oakland? Is that correct?
I am. I'm in Oakland.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought. I thought you were in Oaktown. Okay, wonderful, man. Well, I'm glad you're here. And when they mentioned you as a person that wanted to come in and speak, I said, well, he's kind of young, So you sure that's accurate? And then I saw your resume, or you told me a little bit about yourself, and he told me about you, and I said, wow, this guy's incredibly accomplished, very smart. You finished high school at the age of 16, graduated from college at the age of 20, and now you're a teacher. You're at the age of 22, and you're just doing amazing things. So I said, okay, this is somebody I would want to speak on my behalf as well. So first off, I want to ask you, when you did you see any of this, any of what Yvette had to say when it came to the minister and to the nation and stuff
I
like
did.
that?
I did. I watched both her videos, and there were some things that were concerning in the way that she framed justice or else, as well as the way that she framed Minister Farrakhan. First and foremost, she framed it as Minister Farrakhan inciting a race war. And I'm sorry to inform her and all the viewers, but we've been in a war for 450 years. Minister Farrakhan didn't create racial tensions. Minister Farrakhan didn't cause white people to hate us. Minister Farrakhan didn't cause white people to bring us here in the hulls of ships. Minister Farrakhan didn't cause white folks to bomb Tulsa, Oklahoma. Minister Farrakhan didn't cause white folks to kill us every 28 hours. And Minister Farrakhan didn't cause the current tension, which has black people dying every 8 hours. So how can you frame this as him inciting a race war? The fact of the matter is, people have been at war with us, but we just haven't been fighting back. Minister Farrakhan is simply saying that it's now is the time that we need to take a moment and stand up and retaliate and resist. How long can the people continue to be oppressed without doing anything or saying anything? At a certain point in time, it's enough is enough. So in the video, she said that, black people have it bad. There's people in other parts of the world that have it worse. I'm sorry, I reject that notion. That's like saying just because I'm a house slave, we don't need to end slavery because the field slaves got it worse. It's not sufficient for us to say that black people in other parts of the world have it worse when black people all over the world are catching hell. And we do know that black people in America are in the belly of the beast. So if we're able to have effective resistance here in America, then we can set the standard as we have in the past of what resistance and revolution can look like. So we have to start to rethink this situation first and foremost. She talked about the possibility of physical retaliation and acted as if or demonstrated that it was impossible. I mean, once I reject that notion also. It's not impossible to physically retaliate against a larger army and be successful. History is littered with story of people with smaller armies and less weapons and no weapons who have successfully had revolutions all over the world. In Eritrea, for example, they had a revolution with 4 million people that beat a conquering army of 60 million. Fidel Castro and Che Guevara launched their revolution with a mere 80 soldiers, traveling on the Grama from Mexico into Cuba. And with 80 soldiers, they had a revolution that was successful. So we reject the fact that with 10,000, we don't have the capacity to actually fight and die and kill and win a battle for our people. And more importantly, as a young man of 22, I never grew up believing that I had this magical ability to live to 60 and 65. Most of my peers are locked up or dead before the age of 25. So we're dying at this age and at this rate. Why not die fighting for something that my children or my unborn children or future generations can be appreciative of? Why wait
Mm.
until I'm 60 and 65 and 70, ain't done a damn thing with my life, and now I'm going to die cold, sleep, doing nothing, and my people continue to live in oppression. I can say personally, I am willing to give my life. I am more than willing to give my life because our people have been dying for too long. Too many of our ancestors are counting on us to do something that is radically different. And to be honest, Sister Yvette didn't even offer an alternative option. We're dying
Mm.
at rates literally unbelievable, and we don't even have the gall to give another option. Yet we want to say retaliation is not prescribed. We're speaking from a spiritual perspective, but also from a political perspective. And as she mentioned, white America only respects two things: money and violence. And Minister Farrakhan gave two solutions: an economic boycott, and we must be willing to retaliate. And so, how can you say that and in the same breath not only have a tirade against Minister Farrakhan, but in the same breath say that what he is saying is not a feasible reality? People all over the world have created revolutions with lesser numbers. Who are we? What kind of courage do we have to say that we don't have that same capacity here in America?
Mm.
Now, the bulk of her argument, she was saying that Minister Farrakhan has not offered a clear plan. Now, I have to say, as someone who studies military history, I have never in my life heard of a military general outlining a clear plan, right, in front of millions of people. I've
Mm.
never seen a military general give a military strategy on YouTube. What kind of sense would that make? But what we do know, as you mentioned, is Minister Farrakhan has a track record of clear plans. First. Secondly, Fidel and Che during the Cuban Revolution, they would give radio broadcasts on a weekly basis. But when they gave these broadcasts want to tell everybody, okay, here's how we're going to attack. Here's how many soldiers we have. Here's brother soldiers are going to meet up, and here's how we're going to, fight the enemy. No, what kind of sense would that make? No, the radio broadcast and the public messaging is designed to inspire the layman, or what Che will call the lumpen proletariat, to inspire them to be on the side of those who are willing to fight. So he said he wanted 10,000 in the midst of a million. That means the other 990,000 need to be willing to support those who are fearless and ready to give and take a life at a moment's notice. No general posts their entire strategy on YouTube. Now, we have to be honest and think about this.
Mm.
Now, most importantly, the fact of the matter is he is right. At the rates that black people are dying, we have tried protesting, and we've tried protesting for a really long time. We've tried integrating, we've tried voting, we've tried policy reform, we've tried legislative reform, we've tried prison reform, we have tried every single option in America. We have exhausted them all. And so what Minister Farrakhan says is what his teacher Elijah Muhammad said before him: come and try it our way. Come and try separating. Come and try doing something different for black people. And if you would take a moment to try it, just maybe it might work, you know?
Mm.
Go ahead.
Interesting. I want to. I mean, you were going, so I was definitely going to let you go. I think that It looked like you addressed a lot of the critique.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like a lot of what Yvette was saying had to do with the lack of a clear plan. And so you're saying that there is a plan, but it's not necessarily something that is going to be distributed to the public. Now, what about what Yvette said in terms of she said that if she said, look, if I'm some kid who's not in the nation and I hear this speech and I just say, okay, I've been given the order. I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna go and find a cop and I'm gonna respond to what this cop might have done to somebody else or done to somebody I care about. She said, look, the nation isn't. Are they gonna come and bail this person out? Are they gonna come and what are they gonna do to help this person out? And so, what would you say to something like that in terms of her concern that you might incite young people to do things that could put them in immediate harm's way? Can you respond to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, it's important to know that even in the quote Minister Farrakhan said, he said, if the federal government does not do the job of providing justice. That's a clause, right? That's an option, right? That means the federal government has the option of providing for us justice. So he didn't tell straight up, okay, you're young, you're black, you're ready, go and shoot X person or Y. That's not what he said. He said, if the federal government, right? And that's the first thing that we need to acknowledge, right? Now, if she has no hope that the federal government would do something different, right? And the federal government continues to demonstrate that it will do nothing different, then we can come back to the table and talk to Minister Farrakhan and ask, well, what is it exactly that you would like for us to do? Because the fact of the matter is, he didn't give an order. She is right. He does have soldiers. And if he gave the order, us as soldiers would execute the order straight up, straight down. But he did not give an order. And that needs to be made very clear because it's what you call a straw man argument. She's saying that he ordered something that he did not order. And that's a problem.
Mm, interesting. Okay, so what you're saying is, and I think it is an important point. You're saying that the minister says that he's looking for 10,000 among the million. He's looking for people to side with the efforts to retaliate against the violence, which it seems logical, right? I mean, somebody's attacking you and hurting you. You don't just let them kick you upside the head. Um, but he didn't go as far as actually ordering anybody to do anything right at that particular moment. Is that what you're basically saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And comparatively, he did give an order or an instruction or a request directly. He said that for Black Friday, we should not spend our money inside of their stores. That was a directive, right? So I would not be spending money on Black Friday. So it's important to actually look at what he said and not to set up this kind of straw man argument, which is really covering something else, is what it seems, right? The other thing I do want to point out is that she talked about toward the end of the video that by doing this, we're deterring, right, the white sympathy that's out there. And quite frankly, I'm dumbfounded because I don't know where this white sympathy is. Is the white sympathy there with with the police officers who turned their back on Mayor De Blasio? Was the white sympathy there with the 3/4 of or less than 20% of white people who feel that police actions are doing too much? Is the white sympathy there when cops just yesterday did a fake memorial of Michael Brown mocking him? Was the white sympathy there when 1 in 10 white folks say that racism is an issue? They know it's an issue, but they won't take any meaningful action against it. Where has this white sympathy been? I think we have 450 years of knowing from firsthand experience that white sympathy is not an effective response to white racism, quite frankly. And that needs to be very, very clear. 50 years after civil rights, 50 years after the voting rights, we still lack civil rights and voting act. It is in voting rights. It is extremely clear. It is excessively and abundantly clear that white sympathy is not sufficient. So I'm not interested in looking for white sympathy. I'm interested in developing power, economic and physical, amongst our people so that white folks don't stop shooting us because they're sympathetic, because that hasn't worked. But they stop shooting us because there's a clear understanding that there's a consequence for when you do these things against black folks.
Mm. Well, you know what, man? You have laid out, I think, a great argument, and I'm excited about people getting a chance to hear this other perspective as well. Because you know how I love Yvette Carnell, and I'm glad she speaks her mind. But I also have a lot of respect for you, and I'm glad you speak your mind as well, because I think that this is the kind of conversation that needs to happen in the community. And I'm actually meeting with the minister in a couple of days, so this is added to my perspective as well. So I look forward to hearing from him if he has something to say on this. And I think you have represented yourself very well. If anybody had any doubts about you being a 22-year-old, I hope those doubts have been assuaged because you made a great argument.
Thank you. If I may, I want to make just two more points before we get off. One is that Sister Yvette took a number of pot shots at Minister Farrakhan, right? She said things like, you go and put yourself on the front line. What have you done for black people, etc., right? And I want to clarify, just for the record, Minister Farrakhan has the longest standing record of protecting and defending and fighting on behalf of black people. And quite frankly, the Nation of Islam has withstood and stood up longer than hardly any other organization that we have had, and has been consistently on the front lines. And not just on the front lines, but the Nation of Islam has had multiple interactions with the state that have been violent and nonviolent. And in many of those interactions, we came out successful. It is because of the Nation of Islam that black people can have independent black-owned schools, because the Nation of Islam was in a physical fight with police inside the courtroom in 1934. In 1942, Elijah Muhammad was jailed and incarcerated for standing up and having an anti-war stance. And so anyone that is anti-war today owes a debt of gratitude to Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, whose membership was incarcerated in the early days. Since 1931, the Nation of Islam has had a file with the FBI. In the 1960s, countless Muslims were attacked by local and state police departments. In 1972, Minister Farrakhan himself was attacked inside of the mosque inside of New York City. And the police attacked the mosque, and the FOI whooped the police because we believe in fighting back against those who fight us. And not only did the FOI whip police, the police officers were not even able to get outside of the building because the local Harlem community came and supported Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. So this idea that Farrakhan doesn't have a record of actually being on the front lines. During the Million Man March, Minister Farrakhan refused to have an escape route just in case the enemy did something against us. All over the Nation of Islam's history, we've had consistent battles with the state. For example, she said he's not a threat to white supremacy. The U.S. Senate said unanimously 95-0 that it had a censure on Minister Farrakhan in the 1980s. He's not a threat to white supremacy. I think we need to reevaluate our perceptions of our leadership. And I think we need to reevaluate what is and is not success. The Nation of Islam has had farmland for decades. The Nation of Islam has its own schools all across America that teaches black babies from a black educational paradigm with black teachers and with black money. We have a method and we have a record of success. And it is unfair and it is a disservice to our people to put this out there as if it is actually backed up by evidence. Even here locally in Oakland, California, it was ministers in the Nation of Islam that spearheaded the Oscar Grant movement, which got the only police officer in the state of California ever to be charged for the murder of a black person while on duty and caused him to be arrested and caused him to be charged with manslaughter. That was the work largely of ministers in the Nation of Islam. Even in a current context in Ferguson and in Baltimore, it was the fruit of Islam, the men of the Nation of Islam who were on the front line securing and making sure that our people could be safe. So this idea that the Nation of Islam is just this side group that doesn't do any work, this side group that doesn't actually put in work, it's a false, it's a myth. And we really need to reevaluate what we are saying out there. And lastly, this idea that the Million Man March wasn't a threat. I categorically reject that. Countless studies were done after the Million Man March that demonstrated quite evidently that the Million Man March had a very clear impact. And she should check in with her people because 63% of black people after the Million Man March said it had a positive impact on the black community as a whole. So who is she talking about when she says the Million Man March didn't have an impact? What research has she done? What evidence is there to support that? And the last point I want to make is this idea that the Nation of Islam is on this conservative spectrum. We categorically reject that. You cannot place the Nation of Islam on a conservative and liberal ideology when that ideology was created by white folks for white folks. Conservative and liberal are two ideologies regarding how white people see each other. It has nothing to do with black people. And so, for example, Minister Farrakhan called for us to be willing to retaliate. If anything, that's radical, not conservative. The Nation of Islam's program says that we believe all black people on death row should be freed immediately. That's, if anything, that is radical, not conservative. We believe that all believers in Islam and all prisoners should be able to go free and be with their own people. That is definitively radical, not conservative. Minister Farrakhan has been on the front line for fighting for reparations. That is radical, not conservative. The Muslim program says that we believe that we should be tax exempt because of the suffering that our people have gone through. If anything, that is radical, not conservative. So to place us on this weird white spectrum of the white world of conservative and liberal is a falsity, right? And it doesn't apply to us because we will do what is best for our people as a whole, not based on what some white ideologue has told us is best for black people. You understand what I'm saying? And so what I'm saying is that we must operate on the interests of our people as a whole, not based on what the white world has demonstrated and has said, because Hillary nor Donald Trump are going to do anything productive for black people. So I can't fall into that trap of which side do I lay on. The real question is, which side does she lay on? As young black people are being willing and geared up to be willing to give their lives in the fight for our people to make all of our ancestors' dreams a reality, where does she stand? And why are you attacking the only leader out here saying justice or else? It's a problem that when our leadership comes out and says we actually must do something, people want to attack. And we have to radically rethink that. And so what I would offer to Sister Yvette is that we don't want to have this kind of conversation over the airwaves. It would be much better for us to have this conversation. She could have called the minister. She could have written the minister. She could have reached out to some of her Nation of Islam friends. And we could have had a peaceful and respectful dialogue about this instead of having to have a debate over the airways. Because what that does, it muddies the water of unity. And the goal of Minister Farrakhan was, is, and continues to be, how do we unite Black America behind a cause so that we can actually see ourselves free? So that would have been a much better way to approach this. And I'm more than willing to talk to her via phone, via Skype, via Google Hangout, whatever it might be. Even if we have to go and sit down and get coffee in person. But we can do that because we're supposed to be allies in struggle. But to come and make this attack against Minister Farrakhan and the call for justice or else is inappropriate. And quite frankly, it is indefensible. Because the reality of the matter is Minister Farrakhan's record needs no defense. He has literally stood on the front line for 62 years. And you cannot point to another Black leader who has done anything comparable in the work level that he has done. Where are other Black organizations? Who else survived the COINTELPRO? So we really need to sit back and reconsider how we go about approaching one another, because this could have been done in a much better way. So those are the points I really wanted to make, because there's a better way to do this, right? There's a better way to go about disagreements without being disagreeable. And what she did was disagreeable. And that's why she got the response that she got, because Black people all over America, young Black people all over America, are looking at this call and saying, this is what we need. I have a group of students here in Oakland, California from a middle school, 20 of whom will be at Justice or Else. Young people, I'm talking about 12, 13, 14 years old, are very clear. This is what we need. And we cannot allow our fear of consequence to prevent us from doing what is so thoroughly necessary.
Mm. All right. Well, you said it all, man. And everybody who's watching, I want you to know this brother was 2 years old when the Million Man March happened, but he's certainly a man now. And I'm so glad you represented yourself so well, and you made some very good arguments. I look forward to hearing what Yvette might have to say about this. And if you guys want me to make that connection, I'll be glad to do it. I love Yvette to the end of time, and I love the minister to the end of time. And so for me, it was a matter of making sure that all the sides got heard, and that's the objective, so that people can make their own decision. By the way, are you going to go into law? Are you going to become an attorney or something like that? Because you make very good arguments.
I don't plan on being an attorney because I don't think there's any justice for us in America's legal system. But I will defend a man who is so worthy of defense.
All right, man. Well, you know what? I'm going to bring you back at some point. I'll invite you back for sure, because I love what you have to say. You delivered it very, very well, man. And I want everybody to. Is there a way people can get in touch with you or anything like that? You got some stuff going on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Salih Najee, SalihnNajee, on Facebook, Salih Muhammad, on Instagram at Salih Najee.
Okay. All right, everybody. This is Mr. Salih Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. Brilliant young brother. Laid some very good arguments. I look forward to hearing what Yvette might have to say about this. I think this is an important conversation. I hope that all of you will join in on this. And remember, our goal is not to tell you what to think. It's to encourage you to think for yourself. So engage in critical thinking. Make the decision. But look at all the evidence before you do. Until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.